Hey everybody, this is Al with El Rey Collection. Everybody, one viewer, great, awesome. Say hello, please, in the in the comments. I was looking to kind of clear kind of my mail, and I had this CGC or CSG, which a lot of people call them by. Actually, I'm going to see if I can. At least my camera isn't having the issues it had yesterday. I'm going to put this down a little bit. Maybe you can see better. Um, and I figured it was a great time to talk about CGC in general. And obviously, I've got some submissions from them. Um, and I'm happy to take any questions. I think grading can be quite a personal thing on your preferences. Like a lot of people love the tux look. Others like just the standard candy canes. So it's very personal, and I'm going to venture to say CGC is now the number 2 grader, not just in volume, but actually in kind of the market acceptance in certain corners, particularly TCG, which I know we don't talk a lot about, but that's a huge part of the market. Actually, the majority of the market now is in TCG. And then I also want to talk a little bit about the business side, because I do wonder how these guys are doing it in terms of a much lower cost structure than than PSA has. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But let's get through this, and I'll tell you the types of things that I grade at CGC as we go through. So this is I think 46 or 48 card submission that I did to them, and it was under their bulk. So we'll talk some comparative. The vast majority, this is nice. A nice little packing slip. The vast majority of the items had not been graded or are kind of uncatalogued cards, which is an area that what do you call CGC is more flexible than some of the other graders. You'll see in here a bunch of uncatalogued Italian cards for Mesa. A lot of C's on this, circa. And most of this submission, if I recall right, is Italian cards. So again, here you can kind of see this. A few of them are known. A lot of them are less known. Typically, if I would have a submission like this to PSA, it would take longer than their regular promoted turnaround times by about a month, and those were usually like 65 to 65 business days, I think, which equates to more than 3 months. So I'd say it normally takes about 4 months for a submission to get back from PSA of similar ilk. Probably this would be even more difficult. So on a comparable basis, I sent this in mid-June, and we're mid-July, right? So it took 1 month. So it's much faster. Number one, it is incredibly cheaper. The actual invoice per card, if you didn't have an account with them, is $11, if I'm not wrong. But if you join their collectors club, you get 20% off. So in my case, this invoice was $299 for 46 cards, which turns out to be $8.80 per card, which to me is a hell of a bargain, especially when we're talking about vintage cards. Okay, so first impressions, the outer box, not very cool. It didn't have a lot of packaging. If you want to see that again, for those of you who didn't see, it was just an outer box with just a little bit of bubble wrap. So not impressed, not super impressed there. On the side, I have these stickers that are used probably for internal pressing. Now I open this up. Like normally we would, if we did this, we would have a PSA view. Like let's see if I have one of those around. I don't, but those are really cool. They lift up, kind of create a positive impression for you. Not feeling the same thing yet for CSG. Oh, but this is nice. Look at how these cards come back. They come back in sleeves. So let's just take one card out. So we have this card. This is the first one. So that's very interesting. So, all right, well, let's just go through the cards. That's kind of the impression. How they do it for $8.80, much faster than PSA. That's why we need competition in the world. All right, so let's go through and let's check it. Wow, a banger right out of the box. We've got a Mesa yellow. This is really nice. Again, this is probably early 1930s, and that's in a PSA 5. Couple things that I would generally say, although this is a really, really nice copy. I feel in general that if I were to cross CSG cards to PSA, and they're getting number grades above, let's say a 5 or above, maybe even a 4 and above, I generally think those would cross if I cracked them out and submitted the same card to PSA for, by more or less 2 grades, sometimes 1 grade, sometimes 2 grades, sometimes 3 grades, but rarely would I feel a CGC card go up if you took it out and sent it to PSA, which, by the way, is different from my experience and thoughts on SGC cards. Not a good example, but it's the only slab that I have here. I wouldn't be shocked if I sent this into PSA. Now, ones are hard, but that ultimately came back, 1.5 or a 2 at PSA. That happens. Not incredibly frequently, obviously, but in general, I think that CGC is a little lighter on the strictness. Okay, here's another. Man, so you'll see a lot of these. PSA doesn't feel comfortable just grading uncatalogued chocolate cards, and so this one has a blank white back, so you don't really know who the issuer is. So these were super prolific in Italy in the late 20s through the 30s, prior to the war. Here's another Mesa and an uncatalogued Italian card. Really kind of cool here. Just nice to get some of these slabbed that are going to be, hard to get slabbed. Here is a Mesa. I think it has a kind of a little bit of an odd cut. So we've got an authentic there. The slabs are nice. They're really kind of a crystal clear plastic. Very, very nice. By the way, nice image. I like that smile. Another, you'll notice a trend here. Now this one, actually, we do know what it is. I think it's 1932. Yeah. Vincentini. You'll see back over here, that cool back. Love that font. Hey, a collector's dream. Nice that you could make it. Very nice. So here's that was a 1.5. Again, almost all of these are going to be ones, ones, authentics to 2s. And that's one of the other reasons why it doesn't bother me that much. It's not like I'm, paying a premium for a CGC 9 or a 10. These are all going to be 1s and 2s, whether they're SGC, PSA, or CSG. So then you come down to the question is, who grades them? Number one. Do you like the holder? Number 2. Will it damage my card? And most of these, and I hope, most of the companies would do that. But with stickers, these are kind of hard. These are cardboard, so I'm less concerned about the damage aspect that you do see with CGC holders, especially on stickers. Here's another Mesa 1.5. So you'll see a lot of these have the same side view. There's a couple of views that were common. I'm not showing you the backs if they are blank back. Here's another from the same one that's authentic. but this is a Zelante, so this actually does have a printed backs. A lot of the different chocolate producers in different regions would use the same photograph, and then they would just put their own advertising either on the front or the back, or sometimes both. This is a Zelante, which is one of the more common ones. Just put it on the back on this card. Other cards will have it on the front. Yet another uncatalogued Mesa, same look. This one does have a blank back. I just told you I wasn't going to show you the backs, and I did. So sorry about that. Hope everyone's having a good Saturday. So this one's a little beat up around the edges. You can see this piece at the bottom is missing here, and the back is mangled. But this is a different producer, and they actually put SEMA on the back, which I think is kind of cool, and gave it an authentic grade, which, okay, I get it. There's a piece missing. So here's switching gears. Here's a little bit. This is from the 1942, really, really cool album. You'll see one of the earliest Zizinhos in this set. Who else is in this? Varela is in the set. His rookie sticker, as far as I know, it's Zizinho's second one. A ton of great Uruguayan players. Now, this is post-playing career for Pedro Sea, but obviously he's a great. And this came back a 3, which, if I'm not wrong, these were removed from an album. I'm not 100% sure. But what I would, back to my point of the grades, I would not expect, which does happen, but I would not expect a removed item to get higher than a 2 from PSA. And that's a pretty good rule. Of course, we do have some questions on the Cruyff Vanderhoots and gosh, even some Bergmans from 65. So it's not a perfect rule, but I do think that that in general, the rule holds that if it's removed, the top should be a 2. Okay. Hey, good to see you. Hodges, 1455. We'll be there at SoCo next week at the National. So show up. It's free to transport from the National to the SoCo event, and it goes from 6 to midnight every day. So look forward to being there. Maybe you'll see some of these cards. Maybe I'll bring a few of these cards. So again, Pedro Sea comes back in I had 2 of these, a 3 and a 4. And these are actually really beautiful stickers. So I had 2 of the Seas. Here's another one. Oh, here's another Sea. In this set, I think they had the World Cup, winners. So there's like the different numbers. That one was 196. This one's 209. That's kind of fun. And then, here's another one. So, and this was number 25. So he's got at least 3 stickers in the set. A comparative cost to have this graded with PSA would be almost double. Certainly if you're not in the collectors club, it would be more than double, like $20. So that's way more than double. But if you're in the collectors club, you wait for the right vintage thing. Those will be like $16 a card or something like that. It can depend, maybe 15, maybe 16, maybe 17. So somewhere in the, let's say on average 16, 17, which is basically double what you would get, what you have to pay for CGC. So for lower value cards, wow, I had a number of these Seas. I didn't remember sending these in, but this is a 1.5, and this one now you can clearly see it was removed. Now, the important thing about a lot of these in this particular issue, not that this was meant to be a 1942 Deportista, Glorieta Deportista conversation, but you can see they have different backs. The printed back and the blank back. So the blank back, it doesn't mean that the paper loss, it lost the printing on the extraction. It doesn't mean that. They're just different backs. Some had the advertising and some didn't. So anyway, a couple of Seas. This one was 1.5 and this was clearly removed. So I think the other ones were too, but we got 4, 4.5, 4. Back to my point on kind of the grading. All right, here's the Santos as well. What was his last name? Or Didion or something like that, I believe. Obviously part of the winning teams. This is a fun one. This is an Orsi, and this is Carta Football Sport. Very fun in a PSA 4. I mean, CGC. I'm going to say probably CSG because that's how they started, but that one's kind of cool as well. Just love collecting Orsi cards, Mesa cards. This one's very fun. This is a disc for Mesa, and it's really kind of. I mean, it doesn't show up well on the camera that well, but these are very fun. They're made of metal, and this one's just the image is shockingly good on his face here, so that's good. They gave that a 2. Tons of scratches on the front. Look at the back's almost completely scratched off. Here's another one of this blue border. They gave this one a 3. Yeah, not nearly as scratched on the back, but very fun to get some of those there. This one I've always really loved. Never seen another one, but this is an Imperia, so it actually has the name on the back. It's going to be hard to see because it's imprinted in metal. Let's see if I can get you that. But you trust me, you can actually read that between all the junk there, and it's mostly falling off. But if you put a bright light on it and go 10x, you'll be able to actually read this back, if you can believe it. But another cool front. It's got gold on it. You can see, I mean, this guy, real star here. And this is what I was talking about early. Here's a Zani, and it actually says Zani on the front and on the back, although this still has excess paper from a removal. So that's kind of fun. And then this one gets an authentic because part of the card, this is a way card, is chopped off. But that makes sense. It's totally fair. And you can see on the back, these are way cards where you would put in your peso, the weight, for typically things in the supermarket. So very cool there. God, a lot of mesas now that I'm thinking about it. Here's another one. Another mini portrait. Very fun. This is a blank back. I've seen other ones with different types of backs, so that's good. Here is a very cool one, and you'll say, wait, why? What's so cool about that? I just saw a bunch of those that are uncatalogued ones, but check out this back. Very, very, very detailed, very interesting back. So, and this came back in a 3. Excuse me. Actually, let me have a sip here. Let me know if you guys got any questions. You want me to talk about anything else as we kind of go through this. Sorry for the aside there. Then I've got this one I really like. This is the Mochete. Very, very difficult to get card and just series in general. And this is Combi, great keeper for the Italian team. And then here is a Rafael Constantino from the same series. That was the one. I didn't even check the grade actually on this Combi. Yep, that's also a 1. Now, one thing that I just noticed on this, which I don't love, is there looks to be like, and this is going to be hard. You see there's like some dust or fingerprints or kind of matter inside the, it's not inside where the card is, but it's like on the plastic that surrounds it. And that's annoying, should not be there. And they should, their quality control should pick that up and say, that looks like shit, and get it out. Now, in fairness, I have a few of those from PSA as well that just totally look like, crap. So, but I would say that it's very, very, very rare with PSA. And I don't know how rare or not it is with CGC, but it is, at least in my examples here, I thought I saw it on a couple others as well. Had not pointed it out, but since that happened again, I figured I'd point that away. This is a really fun Piola. This is obviously the end of his career. This is actually a booklet. So this is a Vecchi booklet. Very, very cool. Little booklet. You can thumb through it. And this is something like the PSA, I don't think would ever grade. There's actually, you probably can't see, but there's like a staple here on the side. But very cool looking Piola little booklet that kind of gets in there. And that's another thing. I don't know if you guys, how closely you follow what's happening in the hobby on a daily basis, but CGC just came out with some holders that are going to be basically competition to this size holder from PSA, which is used generally as a one size fits all. And obviously this holder is too big for this really cool, by the way, Cruyff postcard. And what they have now are a series of sizes that will fit these items in a much better way. And so that's good, really good competition. PSA just came out and said they're going to grade comic books. So that's good, competition. So I think all of these things, as they compete, as they try to find their markets, as they try to provide attractive pricing, I think these are all good things for the hobby. Here is a really cool Rosetta. And it's really great shape. And I think they gave this a 2 because of the stamp on the back, which I don't fully understand, but it's beautiful card. So love that. Rosetta, I'm getting the stack here. It's a little too big, so I'll put these kind of back. Here's the Pra 1.5, and this is an uncatalogued issue, but very, very cool. Great keeper. These are fun. Here's Virginia Rosetta, really kind of cool. These Imperia confectionery cards. They're like gold. I don't know if you can. There you go. You get a little bit of the shimmer. They're like gold embossed. Very fun. And Rosetta, I think, is underrated early player of the game. And then here's another Rosetta authentic. Again, this side, this part down here has been chopped off. So, but cool, great image of him. Excited to have that back. And here's another Mesa. Put that in the Mesa stack. This is a David. You can see from the stamp on the back makes that one easy to identify. Here's another one. You remember we saw one earlier that uses the same picture, but this one has a blank back. It comes back in a 2. And by the way, I think every single card in this submission to be a 1 to a 2 to an authentic. So these are absolutely in line with what I would expect. But again, that's not a heroic cause. This is more about because I knew these were all in pretty bad shape, that these would get I was more about getting these issues slab, trying the CGC process. And here's another Mesa. You can see this has got, it's got a nick here on the side, right there. And then that's why they give it the authentic, which I think is okay. I mean, honestly, could you give it a 1? Sure. But, I think unauthentic is fine on that. That I don't have a problem with that. Here is a Ferrari. Won a couple World Cups, right? He was on 34 and 38, I believe. So that's cool in a 1.5. You can see the back was definitely removed, so not a surprise there. Here's another Ferrari. This is a Zani. I love the Zani set. If you guys haven't checked it out, definitely check it out. And this is 34, 35. So this one we were able to peg down a date. The Zani. Okay, and then as part of the submission process, I'd say PSA is generally easier. They have a better database. A lot of these cards had to be manually input, which took a lot of time and effort. Here's another Ferrara 2.5. And I just got nailed by a piece of plastic on the corner here. It was rather sharp. She thought that maybe I cut myself. That's definitely not a good feel if you, so I hadn't felt this on any other one. Let me grab this. Yeah, so this particular one had a little bit of a edge here in the corner that got me. Doesn't look like it drew blood, but that's never good. You don't want your product to draw your customer's blood, right? Okay, so here's another Ferrari. A one, you can see the paper loss on the Zani there. And then here's an Orsi. Zani, it's a one as well. So obviously great Argentine / Italian winger. And then you've got the Rosetta here and the Lorati. Obviously great set. Remember the Mesa sold for up to 70. It's probably around 20,000 now in the last sales, but having it's a great set. The Lorati set, very cool. And then here is also a Lorati Depra. And this one is authentic because the back had, like, it was stuck in an album, and so it has a bunch of when it was extracted from the album, it actually pulled part of the newspaper, it looks like, from it, and that's on the back. But I mean, here they're blank backs, so I just focus on the front. And what a great picture. I mean, I had another Depra here, you can see that. Cool. Not a lot of people talk about him, but very cool to my eyes. Hope you find that cool. And then we have another Rosetta. So I had a lot of Mesa, a lot of Rosetta in here. This is a 2. Really cool back. This is from the 34 World Cup set. That must have been issued afterwards because it calls them a champion. So it's got to be 34 when they were champions. Great one there. And then this one is a little rough. Another Rosetta, some serious creases on there, but a really kind of cool back in the Zalante back there. So we got that. And now we're down to the last couple. So if anybody's got any comments or questions, certainly let me know. Another Rosetta. This one is a Zalante too. Was the last one a Zalante? I think so, yeah. So a couple of those. So I'll end up probably bringing one of these to the National. And then here's another Rosetta, the same picture used in the other ones, but not what do you call it? Not stamped on the back. So therefore it is an uncatalogued, I think they put that right, uncatalogued UNC Italian card. So that's fine. And then the last one in the group, a bit anticlimactic, but yet another uncatalogued Rosetta card. So in general, wow, I just was separating them 3, 6, 9 Rosetta cards. I had 6 Seiya cards, a bunch of Mesas, a couple Depras, some Ferraris and others. But so I think, at the end of this, the big question is, what would you, meaning me, grade with them again? And I think the answer is yeah. I feel like the service level in terms of return was incredibly good. 1 month for what I would generally call pretty difficult to grade items to catalog, so they got to go through the research. I have a submission that I sent more than a month ago, I think, at PSA, and it's still in research. These guys received the cards, went through a difficult research, didn't reach out to me, graded every single card, did not return any as, hey, I can't grade this, I don't know what it is. So that's good. And then, did that all for $8.80 a card, which, yeah, that's pretty good, especially if you want to have your card graded, but PSA doesn't grade it, SGC doesn't grade it. I guess Beckett, I don't really grade with Beckett, but and then you want to get it done, relatively quickly at a cost-effective way. So I would probably think about CGC as my PSA backup, or for the cards that are I'm marginally thinking about grading. $8 is a lot easier to swallow than 16, 17, it ends up being almost $20 with the shipping there and back, depending on how you allocate it. So, if you've got a $20 card, you pay $20, you got to sell it for 50 to break even at a minimum. Seems like a losing proposition for low end cards. Whereas here, $20 card, $8, maybe you can sell it for 40, which doesn't seem like a big number, but that's 20% less. So, and some of these really cards, this is a really nice card. Great card. The grade really doesn't matter because it's going to be somewhere between a 1 and a 2. You'd say, is this overgraded or undergraded? I actually say this is undergraded, but some of them will be slightly overgraded, I would say, in general, to my eyes. But hey, I'm also fine with that. Again, just reviewing some of these, kind of a really cool Combi here. Lots of Mesas. Here's the Constantino. So I think that they're all in all, top to bottom, good. Submission process, worse than PSA. Communication in terms of where it is in the process, worse than PSA. No invoices, worse than PSA. The registry, not even close, right? PSA had such a long head start, so worse than PSA. Holder, for these types of cards, maybe similar. I'm going to give it slightly to PSA, but just because we're all accustomed to that. But that's not as big of a step there for me. And then, probably the most important one for a lot of people, cost and resale value. And I'm going to say resale value, I don't know. I haven't seen a ton of CGC cards sell in the market, so I'm not 100% sure. I think that there'd be a huge gap in higher grades of things that trade frequently. But for this type of stuff, like a 1 of a very rare card, I'm not so sure the drop off is going to be huge, because what's it going to be? It's going to be a PSA 1, right? So it's not, you can't go any lower. I mean, I guess you can get authentic, but then, okay, let's take an authentic. Okay, this is authentic here. It's authentic in PSA. I don't know if there's a big drop off. I just haven't tracked that enough. So, so certainly from a cost perspective, generally the holders are good. Although I had that nick as I was going through it. Fast, good communication, and cheap. I think so. That's where PSA gets on the communication. The cheap and fast goes to CGC. So that's kind of my review of CGC, where they are. I think it's exciting things happening. I think it's great competition. Hopefully that'll drive some of the PSA pricing down. They're still doing $1 million a card in the mid-teens. So why would they decrease, right? That's cannibalistic. And most of the CGC grading, I'm going to guess, we could probably go to GemRate and check this out. 60, 70% is probably in TCG, where they have an easier participation because of their comic lore. But for regular sports cards, it's a good option for things that weren't graded elsewhere. So if you're into things that aren't graded elsewhere, borderline grading items, low cost and fast, returns, CGC could be an option for you. It certainly was for me, and I'm pleased with this experience. Definitely the lowest grading cost that I have paid in many, many, many years, and that makes me happy. And just holding a card like this is great, right? And in a card saver, I feel better about this being in here than in a random card saver, that if I spilled my coffee, it was going to create some problems. So anyway, with that, hope you enjoyed this video, at least enough. Hope you're going to the National. Again, show up at SoCo. Hey, if you can hit that like button, really appreciate it. Also, drop a comment down. Let me know what you guys think about CGC, and I'd be happy to respond to those. My opinion isn't the only or right one. So I think the community always is better when people share their thoughts. So have a great Saturday. Hope you enjoyed this, and I hope to see you guys next week. Take care, everybody.